Welcome back to my iPhone app creation tutorial. This is a fifth video in the series, and if you have survived so far, congratulations. That shows you have the desire to learn more, and I welcome you back to the blog so you can learn more about how to do Xcode coding and create beautiful looking apps. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and click on the Xcode icon and open the interface. You know the name of the application, book tracker tutorial. Go ahead and double click on that, and there you go. That's the app that you have created so far. So just a quick recap, we have done few things. Last tutorial we have learned how to create a table view. Few things about a table view. It has to be associated back to the file through an outlet. We did that. We have to also make the file aware that the table view exists for both data source as well as for all the functions. And for delegations, there are two delegates that we need to associate the file with. We did that in the previous tutorial, which is table view delegate and data source. And once you do that, there are some functions which are required to be complied to, so that the file knows that you have, or your code knows that you have the desired functions available to execute a table. So the first one was about how many number of rows you have in the section, and the second one is about what you do with those rows. How do you display value into it, right? We also learned about what happens when you select a value, which is did select row. So just to make sure we are on the same page, I'll quickly run it and make sure we reiterate the table view functions that we added last time. Okay, so this is your table view. What we did was we created an array where all the values were stored, which is displayed here. And as you select the value, it comes away, which is the did select row value here, right? And this display is happening through this function. How many rows is displayed by this function? And we already have this function which is already associated. This we haven't yet created yet, but it simply checks for all the value, that whether you have all the values available, or if not, it will highlight it accordingly. We have also made sure that when you start typing, the red bar and the border color goes away, but it is not doing any saving at this point in time. You have to wait for some more time before we go ahead and save it, so that we can bring it back next time you're back in the app. All right, so let's go ahead and pause this. I just want to show you the array once again. So this is how you define an array. You do either using let or var. I told you the difference between the two. Let is when you don't want to update the value, it's simply to define once. You use let. If you want to keep changing the value, use var, which also means variable. Then give a name. We use a particular syntax or a name in a nomenclature of the name, so that it is easy for us to recognize it. We give the name of the array, in this case a genre, and we add array to it, so it's an array. It's of what type string, and if you want an array, you provide brackets, the square brackets around it, and we have provided a value accordingly. All right, so what we're going to do today. All right, let me run this again and show you what we are going to do next. So isn't it will be cool if we go to the genre text box, and if you start typing, and it will only show the values which are pertaining to what you're typing, right? So the list will collapse, or it will expand based upon the value you have. It becomes a very important function when you have too many values. This may not be the case in this one. We have only 4, but imagine if you have all the genres listed here, there'll be 15, 20 different genres. Instead of you scrolling down and picking the right one, you have in your mind what you need. You simply type the letters, and it will show you what you have in that list. So let's go ahead and create that. It will allow you to do two things today. One, obviously you can learn more functions, how to deal with it, but more importantly, you will also learn how to play around with code and make your table view much more utility based, and you can use those functions in your future apps accordingly. All right, so how do we do that? Let's go ahead and pause this. The first thing that I want to do is, I don't want to show any table view. It will be like any other text box. I want to hide the table view. How do you do that? So again, remember everything is event driven. So I want to hide it when the screen comes up, right? So the first function that is called is the view did load. Anytime you open the screen, the view did load is called for the first time. So here what we're going to do, the table view name, right? Is genre table view. There's a property known as is it hidden. So is hidden, which is a Boolean property. Boolean is always yes and no. So go ahead and say is hidden, and you say I want to assign a value to this, which is hidden is equal to true, which basically means that you don't want to show the table. Go ahead and run this and see if it is happening that way. Now you see that table is not there. Now what do we want to do next? When I start typing here, let's first try to bring the table back in. Okay, so the same thing, you need to understand the event when you start typing. So and then you want the table to be visible to you again, right? Keep in mind that this text field name is genre text field, right? And keep in mind that what you want to do here is as you start typing, you want to show it. Okay, so that's an event, right? So let's go ahead and pause this. That's our book name event. So go ahead and try to see what function you can use to do that. I've told you before that every UI objects have the associated function, and you can see those function by clicking on the object that you're desiring to and going to the last tab on the property sheet, one is connection inspector. See, we have many connection inspector here. We have used editing changed. If you recall, this is for changing the color. Like, you can go back and see that somewhere down here you should be having it. Book name, which is the first one. See, it is very easy to recognize. You know that book name will be associated to the book name one. You have named it properly, editing change. So when the editing is changing, you are changing the colors and all. So let's go back to this and click on it. So that's the reason it's showing this one is already created. There's something known as editing begin and editing end. So when the editing starts, at that time I want to show the text box. So I can create a connection just like you did before and maybe make the table visible at that point in time. So go ahead, you know how to split the screen. Go ahead and split the screen. Go ahead and click on your left hand side and click on the file where you want to do the connection. Remember, this file is associated to the view control, right? This view control, this file is associated. So that we have done it in the first chapter itself or the first tutorial itself. So I'll go ahead and maybe all of the table function, I want to keep it together, all of the editing function and keep it together. Again, it's not necessary. It is easy to read. It has to be part of the class, not inside in the function. So I'm creating some space here. Click on the text box. You can do many ways. You can drop it right from here, or if you know which function you want, you can directly drag it from here. So we'll do it from here this time. See, I'm not doing it within function. You cannot do. I'm doing it inside the class, right? So it's saying action, editing did begin. Type, you can say any, or you can say get me the UI text field for now. And what I want you to do is make sure you give a good name to it, which allows you to see the increase the readability. So I'll give the name book name. If you recall, that's how you named it. First small, second letter with a capital letter, second word with a capital letter, and then you go ahead and give the name that the event is. So editing did begin. So I'll use the same thing, editing did begin. So it will be very easy for you to read. You can give any name. You can give your own name as well, but that's the best way to do it. So, right. So now we have an event. Whenever the editing will begin, excuse me, this will be called. What do we want to do here? So we want to simply make the table visible. So whenever, I'm sorry, I did the wrong one. I want to take it off. And see, this is important. This is another thing I'll teach you. I did the wrong one. I want to make the table visible when the genre text field is there. So I did on the wrong one, so I want to delete it. But this deletion is not that easy. I mean, if you don't do it right, it may get given error. I can show it to you. Let's say I deleted this and you run this program thinking that you have done nothing wrong. You created something wrong and you deleted it. See, the moment I clicked on it, is giving me error. It comes out. The red is an error. Why did that happen? The moment I clicked on the book name, it's because you deleted from the file, which is rightfully so. Sorry, let me go back to the file. You deleted from here, but you did not delete the association, which is still existing here. Do you see that? So whenever you're deleting any association, you have to delete the association, and also you have to delete the association in the connection bar, so that you have done a complete cleanup. Now, I hope you learned that, though we did by mistake, but that's one lesson I wanted to anyways learn. So I want to do the same thing, but for the genre. So go ahead. This time I'll drag it from the genre just to show a variation. I could have done it from there as well, but from the genre, give the same way genre, and then I will say what editing did. Okay, I need to change it. I need to say change it to editing did begin, and I'll say editing did begin. And for this, I'll say give me the text field reference. This, don't worry about it too much now, but it'll come really handy in the future classes that you're going to learn. Go ahead and connect it. This time it is connected to this genre box. You can see here when you hover over this, you see on your editor the right one is indicated. Great. So go ahead and you want to do what? You want to make the table visible. So you know the table name. See, if you give the right name, it is so easy to understand. So genre table view dot, the properties is hidden, and this time you want to make it true, right? So it will become true, or it will become visible when you are starting your typing, which is what it means. Editing did begin. It's a predefined event, and let's try to run this and see if it is working that way or not. Great. So you don't see any table view. The moment you go inside the genre and start typing, it should show up, but it did not. Okay, let me see what happened here. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Is hidden is true. I have to make it false. My bad. So I say it's not hidden anymore. That's what it basically means. So I'll go ahead and run this again. And see, as soon as I've come here, the table view is visible. But again, it'll work the way it is functioned now. So you click, it'll show you here. But what if I go to the author? I want to again make it invisible, right? So I have to make it true again. Is hidden equal to true? When do you want to do that? Again, this is an event. What is the event? You are leaving the genre text field and going anywhere else. You can go to author, book name, save, anywhere else, right? So the event for that is just like your editing did begin, you have editing did end as well. You want to see that? Click on this. These are the two I've written. Do you see the editing did end? So you are already on the genre. I can click it again to make sure it's a genre text field that you have selected. And then this time I'll do it from here. I will drag this here and I'll put it right over here and give it a name, genre editing did end. See, the benefit of dragging it from the function that you need is event is automatically populated to what you want. Go ahead and select UI text field. Otherwise, you need to make sure you have the right event. Okay, so I connect it here. So when you leave, when the editing is ending, you want what? The genre table view dot is hidden is equal to true, right? So these are the events. So when you have made sure it is hidden in the beginning when the view is loaded, and what you're doing is when it is beginning to edit, so you are making it false, which means that it's visible, and you're leaving, you're again making it true. Let's try to see if this is working as desired. Okay, you come here. Moment you go to genre, it's coming up. You can do whatever you want to. As soon as you leave, it goes away. How cool is that, right? So this kind of let you play with the UI view in a better way. You can use a space in a better way, and you will learn this more as I go along the tutorial, that sometimes you may have to have two different text boxes or two different table views, and you don't have much space on your view, and how do you play around with your space well. These kind of features can help you to play around with that well. Okay, All right, so we have done that, but we have done our function halfway through. What we have done is we are able to hide and show the table view, but it's not doing what we want. So for example, what I want is if I say T, it should only show everything that is T, which is fiction, thriller, but not suspense and biography, right? So that's what we want to do. So that means it is another event that I need to trap, and I have to do some manipulation of function to get it done. Okay. All right. So how do I do that? So for doing that, first of all, before even the event we are very clear when you are typing, and that we already have learned last time, which is editing change. So as the editing is changing, you want to keep searching and doing it. Remember the word search. So what you're doing is, as you are typing anything, you get the value of that what you're typing, and that value, what you basically want to do is you want to search for that value in the array. So let me make your space a little bit more so I can show you. So what you're doing is, essentially what you're doing is when you are typing, you get some value, right? And that value you want to use and search against this and say, do I have a part of that text in each of these values? If it is, then show it back in the table. That's all you're trying to do. Okay. So let's do step by step. So we know that the event is editing change, right? As you're typing, editing will change. To prove that, let's try to print a value here to showcase that what happens when you're typing. So I simply want to print just to showcase. You know your text field, which is genre text field dot text. Okay, so what I want to do is, as you are typing, you are trying to print. Now what is this? This is not an error but a warning. So let's try to read this. It will be very important for you to learn. So it says that expression implicitly coerced from string to any. So what is happening is when you're printing, it is assuming that it has to have a text. The warning is, what if you know there is no text available, it is completely blank, so print cannot print anything. So there are three ways to do this. One is you can force it, because you know that every time you type it will change, so there will be a value, so you're forcing it. So you're saying, don't worry computer, I know that you're doing the right thing because it may or may not have value, but I'm forcing it because I know that when I'm coming to this function, every time I come there will be a value. There's one way to do it. Other way to do it is, well, I may not know, may not be true in this case, but just to showcase to you, you can put double question mark that if this is not existing, this basically means print something else. So you are qualifying to the print event. Print always need a string, so you are confirming that if it is blank, I will print SS, or I'll print no value, or no genre, for example. This question mark basically means that either this or this. But in this case, since I know that there will be always a value, that's how you're changing it. I'll put a exclamation mark, which basically means that I will always have a value here. Okay. So right now we have done nothing. We are just proving to you that when you are changing, you are getting a value. Searching will happen right after that. Okay. So go ahead and run this. Okay. Yeah, so remember this is your console, right? I'll make the console a little bigger. So whenever you're printing, it prints in the console here. So let me move this over here so that you have more visibility. Go to your genre. Let's say I type T. See, T is every time you type something, it comes here. Next time if I type H, the text will be TH. E, THE, space, it'll be a space. The book. See how it happens, right? So every time you're typing, that event is getting tracked, and that's what is getting printed. What you need to do is, you are getting what you want. So you know that every time you're typing, you want to make that table view smaller and larger. So, and based upon what you're typing, so you have the value now. That is what I printed here. You need to use this value to search in that array, right? So there's a way to search an array. For that, let's write a function first. Instead of writing everything here, I will teach you how to create function. Why do we write function? Function is, let's assume you want to call it from here, you want to in future call it from somewhere else. You don't have to keep typing the same thing again and again. You can write once and use it many times. It also is used for readability, right? It is, if you write everything in the one block of code, it is very difficult to read. If you create modular approaches, if you create a function of your own, the readability increases and also your code maintainability increases. So sometimes if you want to change only a particular function, you just go ahead and change there, right? All right, so I go ahead and create a function. How do you create your own function? These are all function, by the way. These are all, I would say, system defined function which we have used and then written our own. If you want to write your own function, all you have to do is say func. That's how the function is known. See this func? These are values to indicate they are system function, but in our case it is R defined, so simply say function. And you can give it any name that you want, and the only thing you have to understand is that name cannot be used again. And there is a way to reuse that as well, known as function override, that we'll learn later on. But for now, it has to be a unique name. So I'll give this name is, what you're trying to do is you're trying to filter an array, right? You are filtering to get what you want. So I'll give it name filter array, or you can give search array, whatever you want to. I will define this function, but filter array always needs a value to come in, right? So what you want to filter on. So I'll say that I need a value, which is nothing but filter text, filter text. This is a name you have given. Okay, you can give any name, search text, filter text, my name, Shantanu, whatever you want, but always give a name that is readable. See how I'm using two words. The first word is small, starting with a small letter. The second word is starting with capital letter. Always increase your readability. And the way the syntax works is you say a colon symbol. So you say filter text is a variable and this is of type string. So you need a string. String is, if you recall, here also you said string. String is constants within double quotes, right? So which is like your name, text, those are all string. So you say that filter array is my function name. It desires to have a string back, which is what filter text is, and then every function will start with the open curly braces and end with a curly brace. So you have defined a function successfully, but this function has got nothing at this point in time. All it knows is that whenever you're calling this function, you need to pass a text of type string, right? Okay, so what do you do next? So what we need to do next is we need to search the filter, right? And when you search, you need to save that value somewhere. So go ahead, and what you need to do is assume this: when I search, I will get a subset. If I find the value, I'll get a subset of this value, right? So I'll go ahead, excuse me, I'll define another variable. Recall the Latin where. This time I'm saying where. I'll tell you why in a little bit later. But I will go ahead and give a name. This is a temp array. So I'll say genre. What I'm getting a genre only, but I'll say it's a temp and it's an array. Okay, you know how to define an array? It's a string array, which will be a subset of what I have. And you say this currently is blank because I don't know what I'll get. When I search, essentially what I'm doing is this is blank. This is of type string, this is of array. This will be a subset of this. So if you recall my example of what I told you before, if I type T, for example, it should get me the thriller, fiction and non-fiction. So I'll get 3 and those 3 will be stored here, right? So that's my genre temp array, right? Now this is a temporary array where I'll store all of the search value. Great, so far so good. So come back to this filter array and I say that I want to fill the genre temp array, and what I want to do is I want to fill this with value coming from genre array. If you recall, there's a genre array right here. You know what, I will change the name a little bit. I'll say instead of temp, I'll say search. It'll increase the readability a little bit. So I say this is a search array, right? So genre search array, and if I've changed there, I have to change here as well. So genre search array. Okay, so what I'm saying is this search array, I want to fill value from genre array. The array function has a function defined known as filter. So it says a filter. It's a little complicated, so stay with me how it is working. So if you see here, this is a filter. It actually returns whatever is returned is returned. It returns another array, which is what we want, right? We want 3 objects, so it will be 3 strings. So if it is within brackets, that means is going to return an array of strings. Okay, and what it basically needs is you want to show that what you're filtering on, and it throws back a boolean value, that means has it found the string or not. Okay, so far again I'm repeating, filter is a function. What it basically does is it will return a string of arrays based upon whether it is found or not. So if it's on true and false, it can return a string of arrays, right? So go ahead and use filter. Okay, and what I'll do is, for now, let me do it a little differently. I'll say filter, and then I will open a bracket to write a function within that filter and close a bracket. Don't worry about the errors that is coming up, because whenever the syntax is not met, the editor kind of prompts you. So within that bracket, what I want to do is press a tab here so the readability increases. So this is the genre array filter. What I want to do here is I will say item, or you can say this case genre. You can give any name. Okay, I'm giving the name genre in. In is like a loop. I think I've showed this before. If not, just remember that if you need to go through a set of values, in this case you have many values, right? 1 2 3 4 5. So I have to go through a loop. So I say genre in, so go through this particular array and return me a genre, which will go into the search array. You return this. Return is a function already available if the genre that you are saying, that's a genre here, contains, that means whatever I'm getting, sorry, I have to say genre dot contains, what it contains, whatever I'm trying to search. So what I'm trying to search, filter text, right? Make sense? Okay, I'll repeat again. What I'm saying first is that genre array I'm trying to filter, and filter returns an array. So that array I'm going to store here in genre search array. Okay. What I'm saying is that in that filter, go through each and every value of genre array. That the way I'm doing is by saying genre in the sense in this array. Okay. And when you get the first one, and what it'll do is it'll first get non-fiction, for example, right? And it'll say that non-fiction, which is this genre, if it contains, means it will look across the text, right? So it will look across the value. So it's not like starting with, so if the T is here or in the beginning or at the end, it will find everything, right? If it contains, it is already a predefined function. So if it contains whatever you're sending, in this case I'll send T, right? Whenever I'm calling that function, what I'm sending, if it is available, in that case only you return the genre, and that genre will come and it will store in the genre search array. You'll get used to it. We'll return, we will run this again and see that how it is getting function, but this loop we'll learn more about in the coming days. But assume that this will go through each and every value, and it will only return this if it contains that filter text. And if you recall, this is what I'm going to pass. Okay, I have defined my function, but this function has not been called anywhere, right? I've simply defined. So if you run, nothing will happen because no one is calling it. You know when you want to call it, right? When they are editing a change with this value, which we've typed here, if you recall, right? So every time you're typing, I want to call the filter array. Okay, so the way I'll call the filter array, it's the filter text, right? What text it is? It is the genre text field dot text, right? So as you're typing that text I'm sending to filter array, it will call every time you're typing, it is called, and it will store the value in search array. Okay, will this work? Probably it will, but will it create a table that you want to? We don't know yet, right? So let's go ahead and run it. I'm telling it won't work, and I'll explain to you also why it won't work. But right now, simply run it and see if there's any error and all. Okay, all right, I'm running it, and just to walk you through as I'm running this, when I click on it, what will happen? It will first call editing begin, so it will show the table. So let's go ahead and do that. Great. And when I start typing, I'm printing it. It will also call the function, right? So if I say T, it is calling the function. but nothing is happening. This list is not getting shrink the way we desired it, right? It is not doing anything, but we know that this function is getting called and there's no error. Why it is not showing the value in the table? For that to know, you have to go back to the table view. What is the table view doing? Table view is only showing values from genre array, and if you recall, the list that you have, it is in search array, right? So even if it is in search array, it is not going to display here because you are only showing value of, you're saying that, hey, table view, show me the count of this, which is genre array, which will be always 1 2 3 4 5, and it's showing that, right? So what we need to do is, once you're done with the filter array function, which is what we have done, we need to do a few things. Okay, for simplicity's sake, I want to move these two to the beginning. This we have done before for coloring and all, right? So, and I am going to remove the print for now. We don't need the print, or maybe let it be there so that we can see how it goes. The filter array is working, but the filter array is storing everything search array. What I need to do is, I need to make sure that your genre array is equal to the search array, genre search array. So what I am doing is, since a table view only understands genre array, since a table view only knows genre array, okay, let me get the error first. Okay, sorry about that. Right, since the table view only knows a genre array, I want whatever I've searched on, which is stored here, to assign it back to genre array after I've done the filter, right? There's an error here. Why there's an error? It's very interesting to know. If you click on it, you'll come to know. Change let to where. Why? See, remember that we made genre array as let. That means we said you cannot change it. But since now we are assigning value to genre array, we have to fix it. So you can fix it by directly doing it, or you can do fix here. It will automatically change it for you. See, it has become from let to where. Okay. Now once you have done, is that enough? Yes, you have assigned it to genre array, but you have to let the table know that you have changed the value. How do you let the table know? The way you tell the table is, you know the table name with a genre table view, and you simply say, now that I have changed value, please reload the data. It's as simple as that. So it will again rerun that table function. Okay. So before I run this, I want to tell you once again what we have done. Editing changes when, as you type, you get the values. We knew that before, so that's the value we get from the genre text field.text. We wrote a function filter array, which is to filter only the values that you're typing. So that function, for readability purpose, we wrote a function right here. What we did was, we created a variable genre search array, which is right here. And see, I have made it a class level variable so that many functions can see it. I want this to be seen by this function as well as by this function. So it has to be at a level that each one can see it. If you only define genre search array in this function, then this function will not be able to see it. Since I need to use and repurpose it, I define it at the class level, right? Once I define this is exactly of type string, but the value will be given by the filter array. So what the filter array is doing is, it is saying that please fill my search array. There's a function known as filter, and I've written a function within that function by saying that go through every of the genre, and this can be any name, right? I've given a name. So genre, let me go through every item of this array, and you return that item only if it contains what I'm sending, which is the filter text, right? Once it filters it, you have this function is executed. You have the genre search array. We know our table only knows genre array. This is how I have defined it. So what I've done is simply assign the search value to the genre array. And how would the table know that value has changed? The only way to know is you have to reload the data. So when you say genre table with the reload data, it reloads the entire data and it works. Will it work? Probably. But there is one more catch we need to learn. So let's run it and see that what's the issue we are facing. Okay. All right. So we go to the genre array. Brilliant. So when you click on it, the editing begin is click, so the table is shown to you. Now let's type T. See how it is working? So it only showed non-fiction and fiction. Let's delete the T, okay? And let's now type T again. What happened? Non-fiction, fiction, both are not coming. Great, let me show you, let me stop this and rerun this again and show you another problem with this. Click on this, it shows the entire table. See, T is in non-fiction, fiction, as well as in thriller, right? But the difference is that T is in small letter here and T is in capital letter here, right? So when I type small t, it only shows these two, okay? And if I type capital T, again, nothing is shown what's going on, and it's typed here as well. What's happening, we'll learn a little bit later, but let me run this again and type capital T. So go here and type capital T, only gives thriller. So we found two issues. One is it works for the first time, but after the first time, no value is shown. The second problem we found is that it is not able to distinguish between capital and small letters. Okay, so let's first fix the capital and small letter issue before we go to the other issue. All right, so stop this. So when it is searching here, it search whatever you're giving, capital or small. There's a way to ignore it. The way to ignore this is when you are getting the genre, what you do is you simply say that this filter text, by the way, put a dot there, and you simply say that it is lower cased. Will this work? I'm saying that whenever you're searching, search is a lowercase. But again, I also have to make sure that genre is in lowercase too. So what I'll do is I'll say genre dot lowercase id and dot. This is known as concatenation of strings. Sorry. So what I have done is I have said genre array. Whenever you're getting the genre from the array, get the lowercase value of it, and after you get the lowercase, then you search contain, and what you're searching also search in lowercase. So what it is like making everything lowercase. I made the genre as lowercase, I have made the filter text as lowercase, and once you have done that, run it once and see if your uppercase lowercase problem is solved or not. Okay, so come here, type T. Brilliant, you get all the three, right? But again, you have the old issue still existing. You type again T, nothing comes. You type F, nothing comes. All right, so repeating this again before I move on. So I'm saying that when you are searching on the contains, make the genre, everything, all the capital, make it lowercase. Is a available function for you, and whatever filter text you got, the thing that you want to search, you make that also lowercase. You make both as lowercase. What happens is everything is compared in lowercase and you get the value that you want. Well, you can do it in multiple ways as well. You can remove the lowercase from here, right? When you're sending it from here, you can make that as a lowercase as well, right? Dot lowercase, right? This will also work because when you're sending it, it's already a lowercase. Oh, I removed the exclamation mark. So when you're sending it as a lowercase, you can do it like this as well, right? So run it, it will work just fine, right? It doesn't matter as long as both are lowercase. So when you're sending it, it's already in lowercase and you're making genre as lowercase. So if you say T, it works fine. Fair enough. So now that you have done this, what you want to do next is you have to make sure that if you keep deleting, keep searching, it should keep working, right? So why it is not working, let's first try to understand that. The reason it is not working is you are making the genre array as the search array, right? So when you searched it, let's say the same example, you search T. Let me run it again so it'll be easy for you to understand. Let's first understand the problem. You went here, you typed T and you got 3, right? These 3, the reason you got 3 is it was in search array, right? You search, you got 3. That search array got assigned to genre array. So in other words, if I go up, the original value of genre array is now replaced with these 3 values, right? And when you are reloading it, it only showing the genre arrays with 3 values. So all the old values are gone. So what we need to do is, while we are searching, we have to preserve the old value, and the way to preserve this is creating another array, right? It's like you have 3 glasses and you want to with balls, and you want to move, the old classic problem. So how do you move balls between 2 glasses? You use a third glass so that you can save the balls over there without putting it on a table. In first grade, second grade, you must have learned that math problem. Same thing we're trying to do here. So we'll create another array and we'll call it as a maybe genre. This time we'll give it a name temp array, right? And I know this is of type string and equals to blank. This is my temporary hold array. So before I go for search, I have to make sure that the original values are stored here. So how do you do that? So you have 3 functions, remember: did begin, genre, did begin, did end, and editing change. So let me now move this so that you can see this down. I've copied and I'm pasting it here. So these are the 3 functions. When the editing begins, it comes here. When editing ends, it comes here. When editing is happening, it comes here, right? So before even the edit begin, what I want to do is I want to assign my genre temp array all of the value of my genre array to genre temp array. So that way I'm preserving all the values. So no matter whatever the search is doing, it will always have my value preserved here in temp array, correct? So what I do is, before I go for filter, I want to make sure my genre array is always the original array, which is a temp array, right? So I'll repeat again. So what I've done is, my temp array, whenever your editing is beginning, your genre array, all 5 values in this will be in temp array. Filter is changing things. So what I say, before even I filter, I have to filter on the master list. My master list is in temp array, so I always assign a temp array to genre array. So genre array becomes again 5. So let's see how it works, right? We'll run it and go through this, and hopefully it works, and we'll see how it basically works. Okay, we go event by event. Okay, if I click on this, what event will be called? Did begin event. It will do 2 things. It will show the table, and it will also assign your genre array, which is all these 5 values, to the temp array, right? That's what we have done, right? So now my temp array also has all of the genre array value. Okay, now when I type, this function will be called, forget about these 2, this gray color and 0, we have learned this before. So let's just say I type t. Moment I type t, see it's printing t, which is this function. Then what I have done is, in this case, for the first time it is redundant, but doesn't matter. I'm saying that all of my temp array is genre array, right? So genre array again has all the 5 values, perfect. And then I call the filter array. The filter is doing the function, and it will make the search array with these 3 value. And then what you have done is, you have put all the search array value to genre array, which is what has happened. And then you reloaded a table, it showed you all the 3. Now if I type again, in this case I am making it blank, and if I type again, which is, let's say, t, it gives you again all the 3 values. If I type the none, it gives you all. Why it is giving you that all values? Because every time you're calling this, I'm making the temp array, which I'm never changing. You see, the temp array is only once it is getting the value, it keeps assigning the value back to genre array. So it's like the old math problem which I was talking about. 3 glasses, you always have the third glass with all the value, and I keep pouring it in the first glass so that it has all the value before searching. Works like a charm. So I think you have seen that how you can manipulate a table view. You have seen that how you can make a table view disappear and appear again, and you have seen that how you can write functions to achieve some of the complex user behavior which can help you enhance your code. I hope you liked it. If you have any questions regarding these concepts, I know I'm going a little advanced now, please type in your question in the comment box. I'll be happy to answer back to you. And again, if you like it, please do share. Please do subscribe. That's the only way I can make this channel going. So when you subscribe, certain features are enabled for me, which helps me to continue further with creating similar tutorials for you. So I hope you liked it. And if you want to see something else, learn about new functions, you can also comment that in the comment box. Thank you and happy learning.